It is a special edition of the show here, Halifax Sports Talk. Andrew and Daeden with you, and the Halifax Wanderers are back in the postseason, taking on York United. And we are very excited to have Josh Healey from the Wanderers Notebook, and he covers all kinds of sports talk in the city, specifically surrounding Halifax soccer, Canada soccer, and he works for all kinds of great networks. So we want to have him on and get his thoughts. Daeden, we've been talking about a lot of Mooseheads on this podcast, but happy to kind of step in and have a specific episode today just about the Wanderers.
Well, when playoffs come, that kind of takes the head over everything. And playoffs, like you say, are exciting. The city's excited. I'm excited. It would be great to see like what downtown is like on a Wednesday afternoon game day. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens Wednesday night, and great opportunity here to talk to Josh.
As you mentioned, the city just gets so much support around their teams, and they really come together, whether it be the Halifax Mooseheads or the Halifax Thunderbirds, of course, or the Wanderers, and even the local universities. So this is definitely a sports city. And I was saying to you on our weekly podcast and the weekend recap how I think it's kind of cool for the Wanderers that it's the middle of the week. This is a Wednesday night game. Fans get the chance to really just get something to do during the middle of the week that is so exciting. And we know how important it is in soccer to secure home field. And that's exactly what they were able to do, this Wanderers team. So super excited. And this has been one of their most complete seasons they've had, both offensively, defensively, getting contributions all over the board. And what's great is Josh was actually in attendance at the practice today, at the walkthrough, had a chance to hear some quotes from head coach Patrice Geiser. I think he got to talk to some players as well. So we're going to get to hear all kinds of stuff from Josh about how the players are feeling, how the coaching staff is feeling as we approach this game against York. And they kind of have a little bit of a rivalry against York as well, which kind of only started over the past two seasons, which is kind of exciting to have this as their playoff game.
Yeah, Andrew, one thing you did note right there in the middle of the week, it's a midweek game. It'll be interesting to see how many people around the city take a Thursday off.
Especially if it's a big win. That's for sure. You shared something to our Instagram today, Halifax Sports Talk, about the very interesting and unique playoff bracket. It's a lot to go through here, but obviously you get rewarded if you finish higher. That's how it is in every single league. But in this Canadian Premier League, it's a very, very weird bracket format.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I watched the video this morning, I had to watch it like 2 or 3 times to understand it. But the guy did explain it kind of well. As you said, you get rewarded by finishing higher, the first or second place team. Even if you lose that first semifinal, you get to play the second semifinal against the winner of, say, if Halifax moves on and then they beat Cavalry, they would play the loser of the first semifinal. So it's interesting, and I kind of like it. It's grown on me over the past since I've watched the video. I've kind of come to like it.
I think they just really want to have that importance on the regular season and how you do during that regular season to secure home field and certain positionings that you look at. But before we get Josh on here, taking a look, just kind of that zooming out and looking at this Halifax team, finishing fourth place, 39 points, 11 wins, 11 draws, and 6 losses. So very impressive with this Wanderers team that even in games that they weren't able to really, get that full win, they drew. And I know that a lot of people, like myself, it took some time for them to get into the concept of draws. But they certainly were able to keep games close, and they never really dealt with blowouts that much at all. But I think we have Josh here right now. He's locked in. He's ready to go. He was in the city in Halifax today. Let's bring him in, Daeden. I'm happy to have him on. Very appreciative of his time and look forward to hearing what he has to say. Josh Healey, how are you, Josh? Thanks for being here.
I'm good, guys. I'm good. Thanks for having me on the show.
I want to say, look, you and I used to chat in the press box, and I used to love picking your brain, and I know you talk to all kinds of people. You become very well connected. So before we really even get started, I got a handful of questions to toss to you. What have you been up to lately? Because it seems like you've been doing a ton. I saw an interview you did on YouTube with Schaffelberg, so I know you're keeping yourself busy working with One Soccer. You have your own website as well. Tell the folks at home kind of where they can find all your work before we get started.
Yeah, it's gone a lot bigger than I probably ever thought it was going to when I started out just with a local blog. But as you alluded to, Andrew, I'm still running a Halifax soccer-based blog, H of X Football Post, which covers the Wanderers and Tides. And I'm also a contributor to CanPL.ca, which of course is the Canadian Premier League official site, One Soccer, and I've been doing some magazine work as well. So I've got a story coming in Derby magazine, and then also in Atlantic Business magazine. So yeah, it's there's lots to write about when it comes to footy these days.
You're a busy guy. You're a busy guy. So you were in town today. You were in Halifax. What was the vibe like? How are the players feeling? The coaches? What's the temperature right now for the Wanderers?
Excitement's high, man. You could feel an energy on the training ground today. Of course, as you mentioned, head coach Patrice Geyser was out there. We had a lot of media that come in as well, and it's a confident group. It's a very different group, I think, from the one that made the playoffs and hosted a home playoff match in 2023. In so much, there's this. I guess it's hard to kind of nail it down, but I'll almost say the steeliness to them. They've shed that youthful inexperience, and it was all business today. To be honest, they were loose, but very focused at the task at hand.
Josh, I know that the city of Halifax can really rally around a team, and especially come playoff time. We know how rambunctious these Wanderers fans can get up in the stands, especially right above the Garrison patio there at the end. Do you kind of expect a little higher level of excitement from these fans this weekend or this week?
Yeah, I definitely think so, and that's actually something that head coach Patrice Geyser talked about. Was he remembers the feeling and the atmosphere throughout the week leading to the club's first home playoff match in 2023 versus Pacific, and he was really looking to harness that energy from the fans. Of course, it looks like there might be a touch of rain, which will make things a little bit more difficult for people planning to attend. But I expect this is going to be a pretty rowdy crowd, just in terms of again the place we are in the season and the potential for this squad to maybe move on, having a good shot at moving on.
Well, it wouldn't be an East Coast home game without a little bit of fog or rain. I will say that.
Oh yeah, it's completely to their advantage. I think it's one of those things where they're used to playing in it. Of course, it's a grass pitch at the Wanderers grounds as well, and that'll make a big difference. With a little bit of rain, the ball will be slick. It'll be moving quicker, and York United. My understanding, just from talking to their communications person today, is they're not flying in until this evening, so they're actually not even going to train on the grass pitch ahead of time. So it could be the little things can add up sometimes. Grass pitch, not used to playing on it, a little bit of rain. Those could be things in Halifax's advantage when it comes to match time.
I gotta say, the latest article you wrote was super educational. I learned a lot about this Wanderers season just from going over that one article, and I've been looking at a lot of your stuff recently. But just for people that haven't followed the Wanderers, that are just ready to and eager to hop on the bandwagon, because people are always welcome around the city to hop on. We saw it last year with the Thunderbirds, and people are so passionate about the Mooseheads as well. They're not going to follow every game, but once it gets into the postseason, they're into it. The Wanderers had a really, really good start to the season. But what a lot of people don't really know is how long the CPL season really is. Like, we're talking right now, nearing the end of October, the 21st, time of recording here. What can you tell us just kind of about the storyline of the Wanderers season? A good start, a little bit of a dip. To take us through this season, what it has been for the Wanderers.
Yeah, honestly, in a lot of ways, the season has been about redemption for the squad. Out of 2023, it was a young team. It was head coach Patrice Geyser's first year, and 2024 was a disaster. So this season, there are a couple things that they were looking to do. One, they were looking harder to play against. Geyser spent a bunch of time with Canadian men's national team head coach Jesse Marsh. He attended a national team camp in Toronto, and then of course he came here to Halifax this summer as well. And so one of the things he kind of took from that is to be harder to play against, which their defensive record was much better this year. The second thing as well was to return to the postseason. They ended up finishing 6th last year, but it wasn't ever really, they never really captured the same magic that they had in the first season. So they were able to do both of those. It didn't come easy, again, as you alluded to. They had a really strong start. The Wanderers came out of the gates. It was the best start in club history, but they hit a slick patch halfway through, and so they kind of had to navigate and find their way through it. And now we're on the other side of it. They were able to secure postseason, and it's good. In terms of competitiveness and maybe having a shot to go far in the playoffs, I would argue that this is probably the best squad to do so in Wanderers history.
And offensive production, sorry, Daeden, I just want to add an offensive production. Would you say, like, this team a little bit over the past couple of years when they have had success a little bit, it was kind of like, hey, we're going to beat you by getting a lead and protecting it. Would you say this is probably the year that you trust their offense the most as well?
It's kind of funny, actually, because when Geyser first came in, he was all about, I prefer to win 6-5, front foot of football.
Famous quote.
The famous quote. And there's a pragmatism that has kind of creeped in this year, in so much as, he's been burned before, right? The home playoff match versus Pacific, they ended up losing 1-0. They had 27 shots and they couldn't score. Pacific sat down in a low block, and you've kind of seen, a blooding of this Wander squad, to the point where they're like, okay, sometimes you've just got to play to win. You don't have to play pretty football. And, the result of that is they ended up scoring 41 goals this year, which is the most goals the club's ever recorded in a season. But they were much better defensively. Again, alluding to Jesse Marsh, they adopted a high press, higher work ethic, and some of the players that they brought in this year have really strengthened the spine of the team. I had a chance to speak to center back Thomas Mael-Gigel at training today, and he spoke about, you've got to deliver when the time is right, and it doesn't matter if they give up 20%, only have 20% possession. As long as they get the result, that's all that matters. He'd be happy winning 5-4 with 80% of the ball, and he'd be happy losing winning 1-0 with 20% of the ball. The important thing at the end of the day is to win, and that's why he came to Halifax, and sort of the vision that was pitched to him when he signed in the offseason. And that's kind of the mentality I think they're going with as we head into the playoffs here. Something that's really interesting is that there's been a lot of formational shift this season, and we've seen more attacking formation. But the last few matches, they've sat back with a 5 at the back, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see them go out tomorrow with a more defensive-looking shape. Again, trying to be pragmatic, trying to have the game come to them a little bit, especially if they get an early lead.
Josh, one of the players that I wanted to touch on, Thiago Coimbra, obviously he leads the team, 12 goals. He he was injured for a stretch this year. What can you tell me about his play and how important he is to the team, just as a youngster on this team?
Yeah, he may be young, but he's very, very vital to the success of this squad. I wrote in my piece, actually, I wouldn't be surprised if the Wanderers' playoff hopes live and die by Thiago Coimbra's ability to put the ball into the back of the net. He's had an exemplary season. You alluded to his 12 goals there, but it's kind of the way that he scored those goals. It's not like he collected 10 pens to get to that number. It's one of those things where he ended up, he scored every which way. He's got enough pace that he can get behind a back line and score one-on-one with the keeper. He's got the size where he scored a couple headers. He has had, I think, 2 penalties, so he's able to put a pen in. He makes the most of his opportunities, and right now he sits top in the CPL, actually, in the regular season with 0.88 goals per 90 minutes, which essentially means if he's on the pitch, he's going to score a goal over the course of a match, which again, it beat the Golden Boot holder this year. And the only thing that really held him back is, again, he was injured and didn't necessarily get as many minutes, but he's a huge threat when he's on the pitch, and he's integral to the way that the Wanderers are going to play come York United.
Well, like you said, the 0.88 goals per 90 minute, that leads the league, and that's probably the most important thing, is just saying he's consistent and with his scoring.
Yeah, if you were to look at the Wanderers roster to say, okay, which player here can probably move on to go to a higher level, Thiago Coimbra would top that list for the Wanderers. He's quite young. He's only 21 years old. He's got the profile just in terms of the size, And, this year in particular, he's exploded to deliver on the pitch. So we've seen those tangible results in the goals and the assists, where you can go to, whether it be MLS or a club in Europe, and you can make a valid case for this guy, having the potential to move on higher. Something that's interesting to note as well is he actually went away and trained with West Ham United during the preseason as well. So he trained with West Ham's first team, which of course is in the English Premier League. So he's got eyes on him, and it's one of those things where a really strong playoff performance could maybe push a club who's been thinking about pulling the trigger on maybe organizing a transfer to actually go through with it. So it's going to be very fascinating to watch him in the playoffs here and see if he can kind of get his club over the hump offensively.
Guys, we have Josh Healey with us, hfxfootballpost.ca. And Josh, I always know the Wanderers notebook. That's what I always heard. I feel like that was the famous journal there. But now I've seen you've expanded. You've got all kinds of stuff going on. Make sure you guys are looking at all of his articles, all the stuff, staying up to date with everything you're doing, because if you guys miss a game, Josh will let you know everything you have to know, not just for this playoffs, but moving forwards, as well as the rest of the Canadian Premier League. We won't keep you for too much longer, Josh, but obviously you were there today. Do you have any quotes you can give us, any players or anything specifically from head coach Patrice Geyser for the matchup? Let's move on and just talk about this matchup against York. Kind of has developed maybe into a rivalry. It wasn't always a rivalry throughout this existence of the CPL, but as of late, over the past season or two, it has turned into a rivalry. What can you tell us about the head-to-head and any quotes you've heard today that might interest us?
Yeah, well, these are two clubs that don't like each other, frankly. There are a couple of former Wanderers that are on York United. So, that adds a little friction. And I mean, even going back to the first match of the season in April, one of the Wanderers post-match called out York United for being divers and cheaters. So that kind of set the tone for the rest of their matches in the season. If you go back to, it was late August or September, Halifax actually dealt York United their worst loss of the season, of 4-0 drumming at the Wanderers grounds. And we really saw tempers flare during that match. Isaiah Johnston, one of the Wanderers midfielders, was quite incensed at the end about some of the things that York United's players were saying. Osvaldo Leon, who was a York United defender, he ended up getting a 10-match suspension for comments that he made to one of the refs during that match as well. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea about the animosity between these two clubs heading into the playoff match. And then, all their contests were pretty heated. In terms of quotes that I heard at the press conference today, the biggest one that Patrice kind of talked about was, this is not the same squad from 2023. They've learned a lot. They've added some pieces as well. And the core, which includes, of course, Lorenzo Caligari, who's one of their main midfielders, also Thiago Coimbra. They've gained the experience they need to sort of navigate things much better than before. Patrice called their squad in 2023, including himself, naive in some regards. And I think over the last couple of years, we've seen that kind of stripped away to the point where we have what we have before us today, which is, a club that's willing to do tactically on the pitch what it needs to do to get that result. And we'll see if it pays off for them.
Josh, we've seen the Wanderers come out before and get an early lead, and they've fallen back, and teams have been able to come back and take the lead or tie the game in times. What can the Wanderers do to kind of shut down York's offense? I know they can be quick to start up front.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, firstly, what formation they go with. Over the last couple matches, the Wanderers, again, have been playing with 5 at the back, so they've had wing backs. In terms of shutting York United down, York has some heavy hitters in terms of offensive power. Former Wanderer Massimo Ferrin, for example, he can be dangerous if you give him a little bit of space. Julian Altobelli as well had a fantastic season. I think he ended up scoring 10 goals in total. So I think the most important thing is to stay composed, and 2, to just make sure that their lines are really tidy and not give York that space. If we do see the Wanderers play with a 5 at the back, I would be looking for them again to have that headspace where, okay, they're not trying to rush things once they do get the ball. And then again, to kind of look for their wing play to have a huge impact where they will have wing backs going up and down the flanks as well.
I'm very interested to see kind of I don't know how else to phrase it besides like the heat, how heated it gets early on. As you mentioned, the rivalry between these teams, but also the former player angle. I don't care what sport you're talking about or what league it is. The former player angle is always awesome to see. Like a player that was on a team. And let's be real here, Josh. It's not just a former player. It's a player that kind of has some heat to him. You know, someone that's going to definitely talk to the referee. Is going to throw some tackles. He's not going to be shy out there.
Yeah, it's fascinating actually. So both of the Wanderers that ended up playing for York United, these are long-term Patrice Geyser players, just in terms of they were with him at Vaughan, Missouri. These are players that have been with Patrice for years of their amateur football career. And then also he brought them to Halifax when he turned professional as well. So to see them on the other side of the pitch is going to be a really interesting storyline going into it, because again, you know, it's almost like a mentor versus his former students. So that of course includes not only Massimo Farron, but also Riley Ferrazza, who are both important parts of the York United squad.
I want to ask this last thing was about the rest of the league. I mean, we talked about the Wanderers. Anything else? I know you cover the rest of the league as well, so you're not just focused in on our local team, as our podcast is mostly locally based, of course. But what can you tell us about the rest of the league? We know that Forge has been so dominant for quite a long time. We got some West Coast teams that stepped up a bit more this year, but give us a quick little recap of the rest of the league. What's been going on?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Forge ended up winning the CPL Shield, so they're back-to-back CPL Shield winners. But it was actually a very interesting time in the league because we did see some of that shift. One of the biggest surprises, I think, is how well Atletico Ottawa did. They kind of disappointed a little bit last year. Maybe didn't go as far in the playoffs as people anticipated, given some of their signings. But this year they gave Forge a run for the money, to the point where the regular season winner wasn't decided until the last match day, which was last Saturday, and they only narrowly got edged out by 2 points. So Forge and Atletico Ottawa are probably the cream of the crop this year, and they'll of course play in that semifinal here coming on the weekend. But following up on that, Cavalry continues to be an excellent football club, and they'll be waiting for whoever wins from the Wanderers York United one. If the Wanderers do win, they've got a tall task heading to Adco Field. It's a pitch that they've actually never won on before. So of course they beat Cavalry, but they've never beat them on their own turf. So if the Wanderers do come through, they're going to have to do something historic by beating Tommy Wielden Jr. and his Cavalry squad.
That's tough. That's tough.
It's tough. It's tough. I did, you know, it was asked to Patrice Geyser in the press conference today, you know, what are you thinking when beyond this, looking towards the weekend, because you'll have, if they win tomorrow, they'll have a quick turnaround, jump on a plane, fly to Calgary, maybe have one rest day, train, and then it's match day again. And he said, I can't be looking that far ahead. They may have never won there before, but that's a problem that they have to face once they get on the other side of this matchup here coming tomorrow. So it's going to be a very interesting time, I think, for the Halifax footy scene, just in terms of, will the Wanderers finally come of age? I mean, for so long that the club's been very well supported. You only have to walk downtown to see stickers in the cafes, flags on the street signs, but they've never really backed it up on the pitch in terms of having that long-term success. Fans got a taste of it in 2023. And I think right now we're going to see if they have what it takes to kind of rise above and prove to everyone that they're just not a club that comes out and it's a good time and you can beat them. They're a contender in this league, and a win tomorrow would do a lot for kind of solidifying that reputation to say, hey, the Halifax Wanderers have actually arrived and they're not a club to be toyed with.
Well, Josh, you mentioned it. They have not yet won at Cavalry, but the Wanderers do have a club record in away points this year with 15 points. So maybe that's something that can work into their momentum. I know you said it'll be a short swing between this game and then that game if they do make it. But hey, maybe there's always a chance.
Yeah. As you said, their road record was better this year. That's one of the things they were trying to work on. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. As mentioned, it's going to be rainy. It's going to be dark. But for me, sitting up in the press box, sometimes those are the best matches. You get hit with a midweek match where you see the magic of the sport in ways maybe you don't see on a sunny weekend where there's a lot going on. So it should be really interesting.
I have to add this as well, and this was just from my experience being up there in the press box sometimes as well. I used to be up there sometimes, and I'm like, man, it's a little bit crowded. There maybe was a little bit of a lack of calmness. I'm going to say that in a respectful way, as I'm sure you've seen it with different people up there cheering, or the other players, the healthy scratches from the other players being up there, or whatever it might be. But it's a very unique press box because it's very compact. There's a lot going on. You're trying to watch the game, middle of the week, playoff game. It's going to be pretty tense up there, Josh. Obviously, you cover the league, and I'm not trying to put you in a tough position with saying this, but you have a job to do. I can tell you're always busy. You're a hard worker. Is it tough for you ever when you're up there and Wednesday night you'll be up there doing your notes, having your work hat on, to not be a little bit of a fan kind of and get excited about this?
It's one of those things. I always tell this to people. I don't cheer for teams so much as I cheer for players. So, there's players, for example, who I've interviewed and spent a lot of time talking to, and you want to see them do well. You want to see those stories kind of percolate, So, for example, Lorenzo Caligari is someone I've profiled and talked a lot about. He's very important to this Wanderers squad, but he's not. Given his pedigree, again, coming from the Paris Saint-Germain academy, he's played with fantastic football players. He won a French national youth national team medal. He's not really found success in his career, just in terms of, there's these lofty things expected from him. And he ends up bouncing all over Europe. He spent some time in Italy and it doesn't go well. And he goes to France and he ends up, in the third division. And you're looking for people like that to achieve something, if you know what I mean. It's the same thing where Dan Nimick, for example, former Wanderers center back and one of their star players in 2023, he just lifted his first professional trophy on Saturday. And, I wasn't cheering for Forge, but I was really happy to see Dan get that trophy. So, yeah, that's what I always say when people are like, is it hard in the press box, as you alluded to? The Wanderers press box can get pretty rowdy at times, whether it be, again, just away players who are ranting and roaring for their club, whether it be there's one time where again, we're right by the fans as well. So there's some Wanderers players who were in the press box, and a fan tried to come in and fight one of the Wanderers players mid-match. Like it's ludicrous stuff, but I think that's sort of the quirk and the charm of being at a pop-up stadium in Halifax versus having, I covered TFC last year. I went to a TFC match and covered that for TFC Republic. And it's a very different feel when you've got, 30 different spots for people to see and a catered media meal that's hot and all these different perks. Whereas, again, at the Wanderers grounds, you're in a sea can on above the pitch or whatever. You got fans below, you got fans to your side, and, they're shoving media, players, coaching staff, everyone into one tin. So yeah, it makes for an interesting environment. But again, that's the charm of it, right? Is what we've got, and in typical East Coast fashion, we've made the most of it. So
it's special, man. It's special.
It really is
unique, and it's our own. It's what the Halifax Wanderers bring. It's gonna be a packed house. I can't wait. And very well said by you. Cheering for players, not teams. And for Dan Nimick, look, he did a lot for the Halifax Wanderers. So for him to lift a trophy, it's really exciting. We really appreciate your time, Josh. Hope to have you back on potentially, whether it be this season or looking into next year. But hopefully the Wanderers get the job done and keep on moving. But just want to give you a last chance again to mention anything where people can find you across social media, anything that you might want people to find you at.
Yeah, as mentioned off the top there, lots of stuff on onesoccercampl.ca right now, hfxfootballpost.ca for my blog stuff, and then anyone who's looking to find me on social media can find me on Blue Sky.
Awesome, man. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Josh.
Josh Healey, guys, thanks so much to Josh for joining us. hfxfootballpost.ca. Make sure you are going on that website if you want to get any soccer, and yes, football, we'll call it as well, information. He writes unbelievable articles, and really enjoy reading his stuff because he'll enlighten you. And it's not going to be all kinds of, like, if you're not a diehard soccer guy like me, I kind of get lost talking about all this formation stuff. He'll make it easy to understand, but he also has some really good articles as well that dive into the formations and will let you know all the stuff you need to know about the game. So York United, Halifax Wanderers, a chance to punch their ticket. And as you mentioned, Daeden, the fact is that they had such a good run on the road this year. Maybe this could be the year they go to Calgary and get the job done because they've been so good on the road.
Who knows? Who knows? All I'm excited for, like Josh mentioned, is a Wednesday night midweek game. A little bit of rain, little bit of fog, like classic East Coast fashion. Maybe we could get some magic of the sport to come through, and the Wanderers get the best of the 9 stripes, and then off to Cavalry. I guess we'll see what happens. It's just one day at a time.
Wanderers fans are as passionate as it gets. We cannot wait for the Wanderers grounds to be just so excited and so jam-packed. And hopefully we see the blue smoke filling through the air with all kinds of goals. And it's just a really successful night for the Wanderers. They deserve it. They've had a great season. And hopefully they can show up and keep moving forward and bring the city a win. If you're new to our channel, guys, we post 2 podcasts at least each week talking Halifax Mooseheads. We're going to be talking Thunderbirds. And of course, we talk Wanderers. If you're new to the channel, guys, subscribe to our channel. Comment below. Let us know your predictions, Wanderers and York United. And you can find us at all of our social platforms, HFX Sports Talk. Thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next time right here on Halifax Sports Talk.